Alright, so I'm going to try and make this video before my phone completely craps out, because it's busted at the moment and keeps dying. So there's a very small number of people in our society that control basically all of the wealth. And I don't think everybody realises the full extent of this. I don't think people realise how much wealth these people have. And often it's not on paper, or it's distributed among a group of people, or it's kind of indirectly managed or controlled. But basically it allows certain people to wreak financial tyranny on the rest of us, and to use their money to control and influence basically anything and everything that happens. Come on, Luna. And there's loads of piles of shit here. I hope she doesn't try to eat any of them. She doesn't actually eat shit, but she has rolled in it a couple of times. Come on, dog. Come on. And these a lot of strange things that go on that don't make any sense, a lot of inexplicable things can be explained in this way. There are certain people that have more power, in my opinion and estimation, than any politician, any world leader. And there are certain organisations and businesses that have more power than any politician or world leader. And if you look at most big companies, every big company, basically, they'll be owned by another big company, and that big company will be owned by another big company, and that big company will have as its primary investor or investors at least one of these companies that owns basically everything. And of course this is hidden from people because it wouldn't be a popular concept. This isn't something people would choose. People wouldn't like for anyone to have this much power. There's obvious examples of it. You know, you see it with people like Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk and stuff. You see how much power and money they have. It's right there in front of you, and it's a lot, but it's not that much. People like, Mark Zuckerberg and stuff, and all these tech people, they have so much money and they have so much influence. They have more influence than they should be allowed to have, and they exert that influence over our society, our politics, and so many things, and that's bad. But there's a kind of a cap. Well, there's not a cap. I mean, their power can keep growing, but for the time being, they don't have the same kind of power as these people and organisations that tend to keep a kind of lower profile. But regardless, all of these groups and all of these people have way too much power over our lives, and we've accepted it as normal. We've sort of accepted, there's this kind of like ruling class of insanely rich people who treat the world as a playground, and who treat us as their toys, and who look at us like we're dirt, and who have ulterior motives and weird visions of the world, and who do this and that, and we kind of just allow them to, and we're like, those are my parents, kind of, we just sort of like tolerate their presence as though this is something we have to put up with, and as though this is something completely normal and that should be expected. And I don't think that should be the case. And I should say, before I get into any of this, I'm a complete hypocrite in this regard. Definitely, like, I don't really do any of the things that I should in order to combat this. Apart from I'm beginning to have a more heightened awareness of it now, and it makes me angry in a way that it didn't in the past. And I feel that's the first step, but there's a lot more to do after that. Come on, Luna. There's a lot of stuff going around. There's been a lot of stuff going around over the last 10 years. A lot of socio-political stuff, a lot of ideological stuff, a lot of sort of movements, as it were. And the irony is that a lot of them that claim to be sort of rebellions and countercultural movements have corporate backing. And often are these movements, these countercultural movements. Luna, get over here. Sorry, I thought she was eating shit. Sorry. These movements, these countercultural movements have backing from these very people, you know, the most powerful, influential people in the world. And has to make you wonder, are they really that countercultural? Who are they serving? And what are these groups really? And a lot of it is very salacious and exciting, and you know, we're fighting for this, we're doing this, we're doing that, we're going to destroy this or that. And by that same token, there's a lot of talk about capitalism and the ills of it from people, myself included, who would much rather order something on Amazon and have it delivered the next day and have the convenience of finding everything on one website than they would go to a local independent shop and just buy it, and give money to someone in your own community. And the problem with this idea is it's really boring, it's not exciting. You don't get to go out on the street and shout at people. You don't get attention for it. What you do get is the quiet satisfaction that you're putting your money somewhere it belongs, somewhere, giving it to someone who deserves it, and not creating or at least contributing to a complete imbalance of power in the world, because that's what we have, a total imbalance of power, which is dictated by money. But yeah, it's boring. It's not, you don't get to be part of a group, you don't get to wear a t-shirt, you don't get to fucking scream and shout, you don't get to tell your parents that they're fucking idiots and that they don't understand, and you know, blah blah blah. You don't get to do any of that shit. You, speaking of shit, you could have bloody done that earlier when we were near a bin, couldn't you? That's the smallest turd ever. Oh, well, that's not going to help, kicking those rocks over there, is it? You know, you don't get to do any of those things. It's just something boring and sensible and nice that we should probably all do. And it comes down to a lot more than just not ordering from them. It's like, it's cheaper to order from these big companies. It's cheaper, it's more convenient. But in the long run, that only hurts us. We're taking money out of our own communities. We're giving it to food delivery services and chain restaurants that are owned by conglomerates, that are owned by other conglomerates, that are owned by investment firms. And we're just feeding into this pyramid that makes all of us suffer and makes all of us powerless and forces all of us to live in an undemocratic world. Even when there's an illusion of democracy, it's not really there because there's this imbalance of power, and we all support it basically. again, myself included, I'm really not trying to claim superiority, just saying it how it is, or how I see it. We keep feeding into it, and we could go and maybe spend a little bit more, maybe make a bit more effort, and go to someone down the road, an independent family-owned business, and keep the money in our community, not make a tiny number of people even richer and more powerful than they already are. It's difficult to do, and it's become boring and unfashionable to care about your own community. I see it everywhere. People don't care. People are on the internet world. They're in this global internet space. They're spraying graffiti murals in small Spanish towns of people who died in America. Their heads are wrapped up in shit that's so above them. I don't know how much of that was caught. My battery's going to die any minute. But their heads are wrapped up in shit that's so above them, and issues that are often, to a normal person, I would say, quite incomprehensible. There's some stuff that's hard to understand without being an expert. And certainly it's hard to understand all of these things without being an expert. You might understand some, but there's some stuff that's pretty clear, which is like, it's good to look after your own community, and if everybody did that, the world would be much better. It's good to take care of what's around you, the boring stuff that's around you. And if just like that, we all did this tomorrow, I mean, to be fair, that would destabilise everything, and that'd probably be crazy, because everything would change too rapidly. But let's just say if we all did do this, imagine as like a thought experiment, like how different the world could be, how different things might look, how much harder it would be for people to be corrupt, for politics to be corrupted by money, for people to be exploited for money. How much more autonomy we would have over our lives and our spending and our purchases. How much easier it would be to run your own business. You know, you set up a local shop and you'll probably, quite likely, if you do a decent job, succeed. So many shops are closing down now, and the ones that are part of a big network of other shops, they can go online. You know, everybody can have their own online store, of course, but so many independent shops and businesses are closing down, and not everybody looks at it in the same way, but you could say that if you work for one of these huge companies and you're dependent on your wages, you're in many ways like a wage slave. And I don't know, I haven't given it enough thought, but I do know that it's better to work for yourself. I know it's better to have your own business. I know it's better to be self-employed. I know that the number of self-employed people goes down every year, and it's been going down, and the number of self-employed people in the 1950s compared to now, I don't remember what, I remember it's like a monumental difference. It's like a 60% drop or something. It's gone from like 80% down to 20% or something. It's huge. And that's not because people don't want to be independent. That's not because people don't want to have their own businesses, their own opportunities. And I know it's natural that some businesses grow bigger than others, but it's gotten to a point of ridiculousness, and we're just feeding into this every day, and we can all see what's wrong with it. and we can all see that it's kind of hurting us, and we're just continuing with it. So I'm trying to, I think it's a bit like with meat and stuff, where you can be militant and you can be like, meat is murder, never eat meat again, don't touch, or you can start thinking a bit more about what you're eating and like how it's sourced and where it's coming from and which animals are the most sort of sentient, and try and eat less of certain things, and try and eat meat that's been more ethically sourced or whatever. I think that's more realistic for most people, and I think it's the same with this. Like, there's no sense in people trying to like radically change their lives overnight, but in general, I don't know, I feel we have a lot more power than we realise, and we're sort of giving that away to people who don't deserve it and misuse it, and we're sort of making that choice every time we make a purchase or do something or eat something, and it can get worse than it is now. It can get downright dystopian. In my view, it kind of already is, but it can quite objectively get dystopian and become an irreversible situation. So I think that's something we need to instill in ourselves and in future generations before that idea is completely lost, and before we end up just giving away everything that we have and everything that's nice about our sort of consumerist society, because I think there are benefits to it. I think there are positives when it's done right, but I don't think it's being done right now for the most part. Yeah, alright, cheers guys, thanks for watching. Any closing thoughts, Luna? You're just knackered. Alright, later guys.